tonight. Driving that number 6 Chevrolet is 18-year-old Rajah Caruth from Washington, D.C.
Shut up and sit down.
How's it going, Real Dealers? It is your man, Philip Hall. And welcome back to another episode of the Real Deal Bros podcast. And I hope everybody's having an amazing day, amazing weekend. And yeah, I'm really excited to get back to in the flow of things, getting back to putting out more episodes for the podcast. Again, the Real Deal Bros isn't going anywhere. Just been busy. But yeah, I'm definitely getting back to putting out more episodes and inviting special guests onto the podcast. And speaking of special guests, I'm very excited to welcome a very awesome person that I was actually able to meet when I was interning for a NASCAR team back in North Carolina. And as you can tell, I returned home to Oakland just a few days ago. But yeah, let me tell you about this guy right here. So this guy got into racing at about when he was 16. He actually started doing iRacing, which is a racing simulator. And since being on iRacing, it has helped jumpstart his racing career. He's currently a sophomore or going into a sophomore year at Winston-Salem State University, studying motorsports management. He has competed in the U.S. Legend Car Series, the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, and also in the ARCA Menards East Series. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce and welcome to the Real Deal Bros podcast, Rajah Caruth. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Philip. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. It is like a long time. I've been wanting to get this guy on a podcast for a long time. And for those that know, with me and Terrell being huge NASCAR fans, we are definitely keeping a close eye out on up and coming talent. And this guy, let me tell you, he has talent like no other. But yeah, man. So yeah, again, thank you again for doing this. And I guess just starting out, let folks introduce yourself, let folks know what you're about. Yeah, we could get it going.
Awesome. So again, thanks for having me on, Philip. I hope all the listeners are doing great this morning or whenever you end up listening to this episode. Like Philip said, I'm Rajah. I started racing when I was 16 and 364 days. I turned 17 the day after. So honestly, we could say 17. And I got into the sport when I was a little kid. I mean, I didn't grow up going to the racetrack. I didn't grow up with family members in the sport, right? I got interested in it through getting like diecast cars, through Lightning McQueen and stop motions and NR 2003 stuff on YouTube, right? And that's how the interest started. And as the years have gone by, it just really snowballed and went from an interest that someone would normally phase out of onto really a passion and obsession. And obviously now I feel like it's my purpose. So that's kind of my backstory. I was born in Atlanta, raised in D.C. Graduated high school last year. I go to Winston-Salem now. I played basketball, ran track, played soccer. I was a pretty normal-ish kid for the most part, really with doing normal high school things besides racing. And the racing stuff didn't really kick off for real until like senior year. And then COVID cut it in half. So that I got most of the high school legit done, I guess. But I did get my diploma. Don't get it twisted. I got my diploma.
Oh yeah, of course, man. Of course.
But yeah, so and I was able to get into racing through NASCAR's Track for Diversity program, and this is my third year in the program. and now I race in the ARCA Menards Series East and the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series. And as of right now, working on to work on what we're doing next year. So putting that together, and I should have an announcement for everybody come the end of this month.
Awesome, man. I mean, like, yeah, it's definitely been a journey. And actually, I want to tell everybody the story of actually how I found out about Rajah. So, and like Rajah, I think it would be cool if you knew this too. So, in my freshman year at St. John's, I was taking a principles of sports management class, and like we were supposed to do, or I was put with a group that was in charge of doing a case study. Well, actually, it was two options. I could either my group could either work on the case study for the Oakland A's, like Moneyball, or we could do a case study on NASCAR. And since another group actually picked the Oakland A's, we ended up with doing NASCAR. And nobody in my group knew about NASCAR. I was actually the only one because, as people know, like I've been a NASCAR fan since I was 3 years old. And I guess, hey, like, next best thing I know from baseball is NASCAR. So yeah, I like, and as I was working on the project, I was pulling references on, what are ways to help grow the sport. And then that's when came across a picture of you and like this article talking about how you got your start in racing through iRacing. And it actually interested me because I was thinking, because I knew about iRacing at the time, but I didn't know that was like a jump start for most drivers because, you hear about, yourself or William Byron using iRacing as a platform to help them get into racing. And, I mentioned how iRacing could be one way to help grow the demographics in NASCAR, make it become more diverse, getting more young people in the racing. And I just thought that was very interesting to hear. And I just want to know from you. So as you start from say watching cars or collecting die casts, like when did you know for sure that you wanted to get into racing? Like when did it
Phillip,
click?
Yeah, man, I think it clicked honestly when I was probably, I would say September 5th, 2014. That was when I went to my first race. It was a nationwide race at Michigan, and I find that kind of ironic with whatever news I'll be having at the end of this month. But it'll be that was probably the moment where it was just like, dang, like this is what I want to do. Really, I went to that race on a Friday after we had like a pep rally at school, and just drove down with my granddad and my mom and dad and my sister, and it was fun. Really seeing Cup cars on the racetrack for qualifying, and then the nationwide cars out to race. To be honest, man, I didn't really know what was going on, but just seeing the cars in person, feeling the vibrations and getting the rubber on my face and getting that experience for the first time, I think that was when it first really sunk in as to, all right, this is what I want to do for real.
I remember my first race like it was yesterday. Well, at first, like when me and my dad, we would always start going to Altamont Motorsports Park. It's it used to be a racetrack about an hour outside of Oakland, over by Altamont Pass. But my first ever Cup race or big NASCAR sanctioned race was at Auto Club Speedway down in Fontana. And I just knew even though I was a fan before, I always watched the race on TV, but just going to the first race and just experience it live. I mean, yeah, I feel like it's an experience that everybody should have. And, for those, we met in person for the first time when I went to the Atlanta race with my intern team. And just having a chance to meet you and have you stand next to Bubba. I mean, it was definitely awesome to see. But we'll get more into that later on in the episode. But as you mentioned, you were accepted into the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program back in 2019, was it?
Yeah, 2019.
So, what was that process like to get into the program? What did you have to do, or did you have to fill an application? Did you have to send a videos? What was the process like?
So basically the process for applying for this program was back in that year, it was submitting an application at first, and that would be with your racing accolades, your background, in addition to making a video of just an introductory type thing of who you are, where you're from, how old you are, and why the program would help you elevate you in your career. And after that, we had a combine, which was of out of the people that submitted applications and videos, a few are chosen to have a tryout, essentially, like how you have your NFL combines and your things of that sort to evaluate really athletes' prowesses. This is the same idea, right? So the one in 2019 for the youth program that I did was basically, first it was off the racetrack, and so we had like different events that we had to do, and just kind of evaluating how we really were professional in certain settings where, we met Max Siegel, we met Jordan Letherman, people higher ups at NASCAR and at Rev Racing, right, and met, some of the shop guys, and that was really the first introductory instance, right? And the next day was the on-track assessment, and so that was basically we had go-karts at GoPro Motorplex, and that's how we kind of assessed drivers, and I got picked out of that bunch to be racing a legend car that summer. That was for the youth program, though. For the regular driver diversity program, it was a little bit of a different process in terms of the actual combine.
Wow. I mean, that's definitely interesting. I had no idea that there was like a whole combine process that you had to go through. And, I think, because like not a lot of people know about NASCAR. I don't know like the intricacies and just like the technical stuff that goes on with trying to train a driver, trying to recruit a driver. Because from stories that I've heard, well-known drivers that like from my era, like they just grew up in racing, or they're like most of them were second generation drivers, or they come from well-to-do backgrounds where their parents could afford them to buy a go-kart and go into like their local town league or whatever. But yeah, it is definitely interesting to see or understand the inside of what the driver diversity program is like and how they recruit. So, and like I know like you've like been with other drivers like LeVar Scott, Blake Lothian, Regina Servant. So did they have to go through the same process, or was their process a little bit different from yours?
Yeah, everybody had to go through that same process of really just a tryout, basically. And on top of that, it's the tryout, but it's the things leading up to it and after the fact. It's how you are pushing your brand, how you act on Instagram and Twitter, believe it or not. It's a combination of all of that factors into if you're picked to make this program.
Awesome. So just knowing that your background came through iRacing when you were going into the Drive for Diversity program, and I know there are some people that maybe do like follow iRacing and follow NASCAR simultaneously. And, there's been people saying like, oh, iRacing is just, it's like a video game or like a simulator. But from someone that has had a lot of success doing iRacing and also a lot of success racing in NASCAR specifically, or like in NASCAR sanctioned series, like how does iRacing compare to the real thing?
I will say iRacing compares, I think, visually very well, and how the racetrack looks, right? And reference points, braking markers, characters of the racetrack. That's where it's been most useful for me and how close it's been. Just because, for example, at Iowa, I've never seen that place before, right? I've never been to anywhere in the Midwest of this country, right? And I've been driving Iowa and iRacing for the last 2 years, right? And before this race, I did 20, 40, 50 laps, right? Just to not drive it how I would in real life, but see kind of what it looks like, where the walls are to a certain extent, see kind of where the bumps are on the racetrack, kind of see what we'll may or not be doing, right? And go to the racetrack, first lap on the racetrack, end up fourth on the board, right? That kind of is a testament to the accuracy of iRacing visually, because I've never seen that place before, and the people I'm racing against have tested there, have raced there for the past 2 years, right? And that's how iRacing has been useful to me. That's how I believe it's accurate in that sense of how things look, and how for even when I start doing road course racing, right? If I've never seen a place before, I can just hop on the sim, learn kind of really how to drive the racetrack, and we'll go and see how we do there.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how far iRacing has come because I first heard about it back in 2010, I believe. I think it was the first year, or it might be 2011. I think it was the first year when iRacing became big and like NASCAR started to make its own sanctioned pro series to have professional iRacers like join the series. Like they'll run a full season and they'll get prize money and the trophy at the end of the season, depending on how the point standing is. And I know Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's a big endorser of iRacing and saying how like it could definitely help train a driver. And of course, with the pandemic last year and how the season was kind of cramped and they couldn't fit in like practice days or qualifying days, and drivers at the resort at being at home racing on the simulator on the same tracks, but still trying to like get the reps in. And just knowing you and just knowing like the numbers that you're putting up. And because like, by the way, Rajah has a Twitch channel that's like specifically focused on iRacing and streaming. Like you get, like I'll make sure to leave the links down below so you can go check out his stuff. But yeah, but like just to say, like you're getting your reps in. So like reps aren't necessarily an issue as far as trying to get those practice and qualifying times in. But actually, I'm going to ask your opinion on this. So knowing that NASCAR hasn't really been doing practice days or qualifying days that much this season, do you think like iRacing is like a advantage for the drivers? Do you think they need to like have those practice days and qualifying days to understand the car better? Like, what are your thoughts on how NASCAR has been able to set up the weekends? Not that's per se having 3-day weekends, but just or what like race day weekends specifically.
So I think the 1-day shows are I believe good to an extent for some of the people in the sport, right? You're not paying for hotels overnight. You're not spending money on practice tires. You're not spending money on extra fuel. You're not there. That takes a lot of expenses out of it. And so having to where we fly there at 3 in the morning or 5 in the morning and get home at midnight, right? But it's more cost efficient for the company, right? And that's the positives of it. And I think the only really drawbacks are from a driver standpoint of not getting track time. And it's imperative for someone like me who has really a very not that good experience to get track time, right? And to not have that chance is a little bit of a detriment. But at the same time, the only way you'll learn for real is being on the racetrack. And so that means you got to be focused with every lap you have on the racetrack. And I mean, I haven't really tested it all from late models. I've gotten to do a good bit of it and been able to learn how those cars drive, learn the characteristics of bias ply tires and bump stops and things of that sort. And with the ARCA cars, I mean, we get half an hour to an hour of practice every week. So that's kind of bound to the wolves. But I will say in terms of having the shorter days, it's great for the teams. It's a little bit of a stress for the younger drivers, but especially for the ones that listen. And I try my best to listen to everybody in this program because everybody, knows what to do, right? And I'm so green. I'm a newbie, so I got to listen and take in information. So
right.
I would say more positives than negatives with having 1-day shows or lack of practice and whatnot.
All right, yeah, and I actually want to segue into that. So, of all the series that you've raced so far, which series has been the most challenging series at this point?
I would say, I mean, the ARCA series has been the hardest so far, but at the same time, I mean, the summer shootout with Legend Cars was pretty difficult too because, I mean, that's the best in Legend Cars in the country, right? And so everybody comes to Charlotte to race in that series. So I certainly didn't set the world on fire in racing Legend Cars, but that was pretty hard. And I learned valuable lessons through the 2 summers that I raced in it. And then in the ARCA series, I mean, you're racing against Cup cars, literally, like, and drivers such as the caliber of Ty, of Corey, of Brett Holmes, like, Austin Hill, like really good dudes that have been racing and been in cars for a very long time. So I would say those 2 series have been the most difficult, and I don't really have I guess ill feelings about it or anything. I just enjoy every time I get to go on the racetrack and work hard to make sure that I'm taking advantage of every chance that I get.
Yeah. So far of all the tracks you've raced on, what has been your favorite track and your least favorite track?
I would say I can't really say I have a least favorite track. But I would say the track that I've had the most difficult time at was probably the Nashville Fairgrounds. That was the track I could not get down to save my life for whatever reason.
Yeah. I hear they're trying to bring it back too.
There next.
Yeah.
Right, and I hope I hope I go back there next year so I can kind of make sure I got it down or go there in a super late model or pro or some sort, and basically. The track I've liked the most, I love Dover. That was a fun racetrack. I like, at the same time, I like, old racetracks. I like Hickory, Greenville, Florence, Myrtle Beach, right? Them old historic racetracks with a lot of history and worn out pavement. And I enjoy going to racetracks like that. That's why I'm really excited for Milwaukee and Salem, tracks with a lot of history and with really old surfaces. So I'm excited. And I think going into Milwaukee in, I believe that's 29 minus 11 is 18. So 18 days, less than 3 weeks.
Awesome.
Counting down slowly.
Yeah. So like for when you prepare for a race, like how, because I know like I don't know like if NASCAR drivers speak a lot on like pre-race rituals. I don't know, like are they praying? Like are they have like a superstition? So they wear like lucky socks or anything like that? So what about you? Like what do you do to prepare for a race? Like what meal do you eat or like what music do you listen to get in the zone when you're about to get into a race car?
Man, I don't really have a ritual like that. I probably should, I guess, now that you say that. It depends. I mean, sometimes I listen to music on the way to the racetrack. Sometimes I'm like around people all the time, so I'm not listening to music. One thing I do try to do though is whether it's before practice, before the race, at some point during race day, like at the racetrack, try to have a moment to myself where I'm just like in my thoughts for a second and just make sure I'm checked in and I'm focused, right? Because there's a lot of things going on, even for the late model race, right? I think it's important to check, and to do so at the racetrack is important as well. So that's I guess, a ritual that I have, the really only ritual that I do. Yeah, I mean, I don't, actually, I do have one thing.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, Roger. I was worried you could repeat that one more time. You kind of cut out a little bit there.
The last part?
Yeah, you said you had a ritual of some sort, but yeah, that's where we cut out.
Okay, yeah. I apologize. I don't really have any rituals, I guess, with a specific meal or specific routine or anything like that. I'm a little bit, in reference to that, I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say disorganized, but more so lax, and I'm not, I have to do this on race day just because I know a lot of things can change. But I would say, I mean, the two little good luck charms and a little moment to myself on race day are the only things that I really would consider ritual-like, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, when I was playing baseball, I kind of had some rituals. Maybe I would like tie one shoe first and tie the other shoe first or something like that. Or yeah, because I know like there are some athletes that do stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess you kind of create one or like without even knowing it, like once you get into your older years, like later on in your career. But yeah, I kind of want to go into just like where you are at right now in the sport. And I know that one of your mentors that's helped you out throughout the years has been Bubba Wallace. And for those that know, I interned with 2311 Racing during the summer, and I like had a chance to like talk with Bubba a couple of times. And yeah, just knowing that you talk to him a lot, like what have you learned from Bubba since you've been in racing?
I've learned a lot from him about how to be well, I'll start first on how to how to deal with negativity, how to deal with pressure and expectations, and to keep a level head, and different decisions that I'll be faced with, and what I need to do to handle certain things. Really advice with going to new racetracks, going to the moving into the ARCA car this year, doing multiple different things, and he's been very helpful for that. And even the small things, like, making sure I have all my gear right. I'm asking him, like, all right, what specific things do I need to do for next year? What seats and hoses and all that stuff, right? He's been there for me every step of the way, and I'm really appreciative of him.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, he's a great guy for sure, and real funny too. Like, yeah, I know he's like always cracking jokes and everything. So, yeah, but yeah, it was definitely a privilege to work with 2011 during the summer, and just seeing like the inside of what Bubba does, and just also who he is as a person, not just as a driver. But so knowing that you're a college student, and you're going to your sophomore year, and then you said you started racing towards the end of high school, or like that's when you got like your first like big break into racing. So just knowing that you're in the demographic that NASCAR has been trying to reach for many years, was like college students like me and you, like. And like when you're, I assume like when you're walking in on Winston-Salem State's campus, like, do people actually recognize you or know that you do NASCAR? Or
not really, and I kind of like that, because Philip, I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like, I'm a pretty low key dude, so and like I can deal with like media obligations, right, and different I guess meet and greet situations, but if I will never get recognized in my career from like walking around, I would love that, because I'm a very like chill and calm dude. So I would say I've not been recognized in public like at all. So hopefully it stays like that for a little bit, but we'll see.
I mean, hey man, it's like the higher you go up, it's gonna change real fast for you, man. I just know it. But but I guess to kind of lead into that, even though people may like feel like you say you live a low key lifestyle, and people may not recognize you on campus, but what do you think are some ways that NASCAR can be talked about on college campuses, or like how has the Drive for Diversity program, or just NASCAR in general, been able to assist with that? Because again, that's the demographic that the sport's trying to reach, and it's a demographic that's going to help keep the sport around. So like, what are some ways that NASCAR can be a top conversation on college campuses?
I think they've got to be active, right? We've got to do activations at HBCUs, do things for their homecomings that are coming this fall, for big social events, so people are hip to stock car racing, right? And to see that the sport isn't secluded, isn't an all Southern deal. It's something that we're welcome at, and even having activations, bringing select college kids to races from different HBCUs, or really any colleges. And on top of that, doing different internships in addition to like the NASCAR Drive for Diversity internship program, like the 2311 internship program that you were a part of, and different things that place kids in the sport to see if they like it or not, and to overall allow them to see that an opportunity is there. And above all, some people don't even know what the sport is, right? They have zero clue. So I think by doing activations like that, being present is important, to do so for the longevity of the sport, right? It's important to not change its identity, but it's also important to grow. So I think it's hard, obviously, to maintain that balance, and I think by doing some of those steps, we can maintain a balance.
Yeah. I'll admit, when like, I know being at St. John's, and St. John's in New York, like New York there isn't like the biggest NASCAR market per se, but when people knew how big of a fan I was, and just like talking about NASCAR on my radio show, and they were like, oh man, like I like, it's funny, like I'm known around the campus as the NASCAR guy, at least for like people that are like are in the same major as me. Like, I study sport management, And yeah, and I'm real passionate about the sport, and I've definitely been trying to find ways to help promote NASCAR to a college demographic. Because growing up, I never really was around too many NASCAR fans outside of my dad and also Terrell. I never really met like too many diehard NASCAR fans throughout my lifespan. And I don't know, I guess and I'm pretty sure Roger, you can relate to this too. But when you're like, say, like a black kid that likes NASCAR, it's a real like, it's a rare commodity in a way. And I just think that for where the sport's going right now, with what NASCAR has been doing, what the platform that Bubba's trying to promote, the platform that you're trying to promote, I think we are definitely heading to like a right direction where the sport could see a lot more diversity, and as well as young faces, young minds coming in. And I just think that there's hope in the sport. There's hope in NASCAR being accepted into the public eye. I just think it's taken a minute for that to happen, but it is definitely going into the right direction per se.
Right. Just got to trust the process.
Yeah. And as someone that's as young as you are, wait, you're 19, right? Or
19.
19, okay. So like, what advice would you give to someone wanting to get into racing? Like, would you say like start on iRacing? What route would you want somebody to choose to make their career more like fruitful in the future or down the line?
I would say depending on if you want to drive, if you want to be on the engineering side, the marketing side, the public relations side, the race operations side, wherever you want to get into the sport, you've got to look at people that are there now and look at the trajectories that they took, and look at what means they use, and look at your situation and evaluate what means you have at your disposal, and see what's possible for you. And on top of that, not to sit around and be complacent, but to be active, be seen, go to the racetrack when you're able to. And I know obviously that's a whole expense really of travel, of tickets, of things of that sort, right? But that's what you got to do. And that's even from what you saw, what I was doing in Atlanta, Philip, like walking around the garage, handing out business cards.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even to where if you don't end up going racing, right, you're still seen, and you're present, then people can put a name with a face and say, oh, I've seen this kid at 5 races this year. He's serious. Maybe I'll actually read his business card. So I would say those are the important things to do in reference to being to trying to have a career in the sport of NASCAR or the sport of stock car racing.
Yeah, and like I don't know if you guys learned this in the Drive for Diversity program, but I remember reading somewhere that like one of the criteria in the program is that they train drivers to help network with sponsors. And I've seen some of the sponsors that you've had in like the weekly series as well as in ARCA. I'm not sure if that's team related or those sponsors that you got in contact with saying, hey, I need some help like funding my team, and I was wondering if you could want to put your name on a car and help pay for equipment or things like that. So like how like has that been integrated into your career so far?
It's really been essentially through iRacing, I guess specifically iRacing, Sunoco, Universal Technical Institute, Max Siegel, right. That's all been through the program, and those have been partners that have sponsored the program and helped me, continue to strive to improve and to learn, and so and to help financially. And at the same time, I've got partners of my own, like I've got DTLR, Events DC, and partners from back home in DC and from New York. And I don't know if you knew this, Philip, but my grandma lives in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Like I've got uncles and aunts and family in like Canarsie and in New York City and the Bronx as well. So definitely have partners.
You got some ties to New York for
yes,
sure.
Definitely. But mainly to say that got some partners through the program that have taken a chance on supporting me, specifically Sunoco and iRacing, through helping our late model program this year, and personally having partners to help with doing our ARCA Menards Series schedule, and hopefully continue to help me and again, announcement coming at the end of the month to talk about those partners, and I'm excited to let y'all know about that.
That's awesome. But yeah, I kind of want to go more into just like your backstory too, is where you lived over the years. You know, like you said, you were born in Atlanta, you're raised in Brooklyn, and you know, like you're also raised in D.C. Um, I don't know, like I'll know like how people react this, but like what has been your favorite, or what city has been your favorite place to be in or live in? Like out of all the places you've lived in through the years.
DC.
DC.
Sorry,
Okay.
bro.
DC. All right. Yeah. Because like, hey, but you know, like folks that are listening, all the real dealers and that go to St. John's, hey, you know, like the one become a fan of Rajah, he's got some ties to New York, Brooklyn. So and
BK.
Yeah, BK.
Yeah, my sister is born there, so
okay.
Got ties there as well.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, Rajah, we're gonna wrap up pretty soon, man. But as far as just to close out, you know, like say in 5 years, like 5 years, you're going to be 24 years old, and you know, yeah, like you're most likely, yeah, no, like it's going to go by real fast. Trust me. Like, yeah, you're 24 years old, like you're going to be like out of college, and you know, like what is the 5-year plan for you, and how will you get there?
I would say in 5 years, hopefully, I'd be either in line to be in the Cup Series or be in the Cup Series, and to do so on the competitive ride. And I think that happens from me doing what I'm supposed to do, right? Me finding through my team, hopefully staying with Chevrolet and continuing to improve as a driver and as a young man. And at that point, you know, have been graduated or being graduated from college and living here somewhere, and hopefully being in line or driving in the Cup Series. That's where I would like to be in 5 years. Hopefully, we've done that, and I think I'm gonna continue to do whatever I can to ensure that happens and in the time to come.
Awesome. So like you're still in North Carolina, right?
Yeah, I live in Concord.
Oh, Concord. Okay. Well, you live in Bubba? No, I was just playing. I was just playing. Actually,
my fault. Oh, I misheard you. My fault.
I was, yeah. Well, never mind. It's cool. But well, actually, I guess like one more question. Like how do you like North Carolina? Is it like a culture shock to you, like compared to DC or Brooklyn or Atlanta? Like, is it different?
I would say at first it was definitely a bit of a culture shock. It definitely was with how things are down here. And so that was the first, I wouldn't say it was an issue, but it was just like something like a whoa at first. And I've lived here for the past year, and now I'm kind of used to it. So I've kind of figured out how to code switch, how things are really here. So yeah, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, I would say when I was, because during the internship, I lived with a host family in Charlotte, and yeah, I know, like, you know, being from like California and like going across the country to North Carolina, even though like of course, you know, I've been to the South, you know, like I have folks that live in Atlanta, and you know, like we'll talk about East Coast, you know, go to college in New York, but like I don't know, like North Carolina to me, it just seemed like so different, you know, just. Well, again, like you have a lot of transplants that come from all over. I mean, you had transplants from New York, you had transplants from Atlanta, transplants from like even like here in California. Yeah, you know, it's just a mixed batch of folks there. But you know, as far as like the culture, you know, I got used to it real quick, and I thought like, oh man, it's gonna be like real Southern, or like real, you know, like I don't know what the morals are there, but yeah, like now, like I definitely enjoyed being just like in the Charlotte area and just North Carolina, just like having that experience and just being in a new place, because that was actually the first time I've been in a different place since COVID. I've been here in Oakland, you know, for the time being, but you know, fortunate enough doing an internship and being able to be out there working in the shop, you know, living like just commuting to the shop every day. And just doing that, it was definitely an experience worth doing. But
awesome.
Yeah.
Glad you had that.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And yeah, it was also definitely a pleasure to meet you in Atlanta for the race. Yeah, like you're definitely, you know, you're a great kid, You got a lot going for you, and yeah, I know like I once you get that cup ride, I'm definitely gonna be rooting for you, man.
Appreciate that, dude, and likewise. It was great to finally meet you.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, like again, thank you, Rajah, for coming on the Real Dope Bros podcast. And actually, there's a thing I like to do here with guests that I bring onto the show, and yeah, like, and I've had amazing guests come on the show, and yeah, you're one of them. So I do this thing where I dub them as a real deal brother or real deal sister, and in the power invested in me, I, Philip Hall, dubbed the Rajah Caruth a real deal brother. So congratulations, man. You've just been knighted into the Real Deal Bros Society alumni. So there you go.
Thank you. If y'all get like pins or anything, send me some.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Put that on my sport coat. Put that on my polo for when I got media events. That's a bit.
Hey, what do they say? They like might want to sponsor you, man. Put our name on the car. But yeah, man. But yeah, again, like thanks for coming on, man. And yeah, like I also want to thank you all for listening into today's episode of the Real Dope Bros podcast. I'll definitely make sure to leave Rajah's information so you guys can go follow him on Instagram, follow him on Twitter, check out his Twitch page so you can see him racing. And yeah, even like you're also on YouTube too, right?
Yep, getting the YouTube going.
All right, awesome, man. So yeah, I'll make sure to leave all of Rajah's information down in the description so you guys can go take a look at it. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, coming on, and yeah, just wish everybody a safe weekend, safe time, and make sure also to check out Rajah on August 29th for his next race. And where can people watch the race, Rajah?
I'm 90% sure it's going to be on MAV TV. It'll definitely be on NBC Track Pass Sunday, August 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss it at the Milwaukee Mile.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure everybody tunes into that one. But yeah, thank you again for coming on. And yeah, again, wish everybody a safe weekend. You take care. And as always, make sure to keep it real.